Chapter 4. The Final Echo. The corridors narrowed until they were ribs. Stone pressed inward, exhaling chill. Frost filmed the floor where ash had drifted, infused into glass. Kaelan moved with his coat tight to his frame, and the weight of the grind revolver knocking softly at his hip. His witchblade drawing a shallow line of cold across his back with every step. As if the magnetic scabbard had teeth. Silence had a flavor now. It was bitter. It sat at the back of his tongue and would not swallow. He'd learned long ago that some silences weren't empty. Some were waiting. He halted, tilting his head. There. A whisper of movement. Not sound, but air displaced by something that cut through it too cleanly for human gait. The lamp pack washed light across a run of pillars and gave him nothing but shadow. Shadows that rearranged themselves every heartbeat, as if they'd decide that where they stood did not suit them. He breathed out through the mask. The filter gave his breath that faint, alien timbre he had stopped hearing years ago. Dust lifted in motes and fell again. His palm brushed his chest, feeling for the familiar shape beneath his coat. A medal. A campaign star for Gathis. Something hissed, soft as a kiss. A particle. Then another. A breath he should not have taken. The first effect was subtle. A prickle behind the eyes. The sense that the walls had leaned a fraction closer while he blinked. Then came the taste. Metallic. Almost like old copper. He swallowed. That noise echoed like a footfall that didn't belong to him. Rangers. Not a psychic lash. Not a banshee wail. But chemistry. There were 1,000 poisons in the galaxy, and not one of them could be warded by faith. How clever, he'd thought to himself. He took another step forward, and the floor decided, without consulting him, to be 6 inches lower. He caught himself against a pillar, and looked down to see that the frost was patterned in perfect ellipses, each one no wider than a thumb. Footfalls. Light enough to leave only kisses in the rime. He said nothing, for the silence had said plenty. A shape unhooked itself from a column, long and thin, and almost not there. No sound, no wasted motion. It watched him from a slit of nothing, then was gone again. Another hiss. Another breath. The walls leaned closer. He moved. Not fast, but precise. He let the corridor dictate a line. Let each step be a decision. The witchblade hummed once, very faintly. Not in his ears, but deep in his bones. The hum had the quality of recognition, and that was the worst of it. His blade knew what hunted him. "You shouldn't have followed me here," he told the maze. But it did not argue. Its next turn opened on a nave, a long run of vaults and arching struts like the ribs of something that had been built to hold breath, and forgotten how. Far along that nave, shadows broke apart and reassembled around a figure that did not quite belong to them. And so Kaelan drew once again. The revolver cleared leather with the smooth economy of a habit that had saved his life too many times to count. He did not point. He held. But the figure did not flinch. The armor was bone white, yet not bone. Wraith bone. Shaped without seam. A helm crowned with runic vein, suspended like a thought over the brow. A long-sleeved coat of something that shifted like smoke in wind that did not exist. The warlock's singing spear was a line drawn from nothing to killing with a single inevitable stroke. Kaelan did not feel the psychic field, for he had never felt such things. But he knew the look of a mind that had learned to focus its entire grief into a point. A voice. Soft. Not modulated by machine. Not raised. But it carried all the same.
"You carry their voices in steel, Monkai."
Kaelan's finger rested on the trigger. Joint lax. "I carry a weapon."
"You carry a prison."
The warlock's helm inclined. Bird-like. Precise.
"And a mask that once belonged to a daughter of our paths. You wear sorrow like trophies. You do not know what you wear."
"I know enough." His voice rasped through the alien grill. "I know what you came for."
"Release them, and I will end you without pain."
"Mercy," Kaelan had said, "is a language we do not share." Something tugged at the edge of his sight. Thin silhouettes along the nave's flanks. The breath of glass-sanded boots across stone. The chill in his mouth sharpened. The toxin walked forward from his lungs into his blood. Kaelan kept his eyes on the spear point. "Come and take him," he'd said.
So many languages in this infinite cosmos. And yet the only one you comprehend is violence. So be it.
The warlock moved. There were fast men in this universe. There were gene-bred killers. Assassins whose lives were one long practice of falling forward. What rose from the floor and became motion in front of him put all of them to shame. No wasted inch. No telegraph. The spear described a single line that contained within it a dozen possibilities, abandoning each as soon as he chose the one that killed. And Kaelan stepped into it. The witchblade came out of the scabbard in a whisper of hair-thin harmonics. Alien edge met alien edge, and the meeting made the air clatter like glassware. The warlock's spear slid along his parry and turned itself into a cut that wasn't there a heartbeat earlier. Kaelan's coat sleeves separated in a neat crescent. The blood that came after it was an afterthought the spear did not bother to admire. Kaelan pivoted, heel grinding frost, and let the null within him be what it was. The warlock hit a space in the air and found it empty. His thoughts, whatever force moved through that spear, stuttered, and could not find purchase in the dead zone. The blade hummed harder in Kaelan's hand. Not joy, certainly not approval, but a vibration of held breath. He fired. The warlock's helm snapped aside. The round hammered a pillar and dug into stone like a miner. The spear wrote his ribs a reminder and was gone before the pain arrived to introduce itself. Kaelan didn't think in words for a stretch of seconds. He thought in corners and lines, and the way a man's weight resolves when he commits to killing. The witchblade came up, down, around. His coat twisted. The revolver barked again. Once, twice, and the warlock was already where the bullets weren't going to be. No fear. No heat. The Eldari's speed was a refusal of inertia. Ragged motion on the flanks. Ghosts with long rifles. Cloaks that broke light. Lenses that drank the world rather than saw it. Rangers. One of them raised a hand, and a puff of glittering dust uncoiled through the air like smoke underwater. Kaelan tried not to inhale, but lungs do not ask permission. The nave lurched. Not the floor, but his sense of it. The vaults doubled, and the warlock drew 2 arcs. Only one was real, and so Kaelan chose. But he was wrong. The butt of the spear met his guard and rang the blade back against his knuckles. He bit down on the inside of his cheek, tasted iron, and held.
Human,
the warlock said, almost a lament.
You were not made to carry emptiness. Let the stones sing again. Let them go.
Step closer, Kaelan had said, and I'll consider it.
Sorrow has made you honest,
the warlock replied, and the cut he drew next admitted no reply at all. Kaelan's world narrowed to an edge, and the absence of an edge. The witchblade took a colour he could not see, and made into a sound the mask could not filter, an ululation that was not heard, but understood by tendon and bone. The warlock's spear struck sparks from nothing, and left little wounds in the air that his skin insisted were on him. He gave ground. At first a step, then 2. Ghosts came with the dust. The child's scream boiled up through time until it was a line in his jaw. He saw little hands clawing at his arm, and there was no arm there to claw. The nave brightened and went cold. Gathis burned above him. The Vostroyans stood in ranks, frost rimming their lashes, lips blue. And when they opened those lips in the steam, their breath red as words in winter air. You promised. The warlock was still there. Closer. Closer now. Kaelan's blade caught the spearhead and sent it away with a twist that would have broken a man's wrist. But the Eldari's wrist did not even consider breaking.
You smell of our dead,
the voice said, with a softness like silk.
The mask, the blade, the stone sings of her sister kin.
The word did not survive translation. She died screaming, Kaelan said. He did not know if it was true. He had intended it to hurt. He did not know if he wanted it to. The warlock's shoulders changed by a breath. 'Twas not rage. 'Twas focus put away and something harder retrieved from storage. He advanced once again. Kaelan met him, and for a dozen heartbeats it was simple. A line against a line. Leverage against leverage. A man who could not be read by warp sense against a being who had never needed to read a man any other way. The revolver boomed once more at intimate distance. The warlock's vein flicked aside, and the round did harm to a statue that had offended no one. The witchblade scored Wraithbone and left nothing visible. The spear found the point below Kaelan's sternum, where he had forgotten there was room enough for hurt left. The carapace took measure and paid in spiderweb cracks. Inquisitor Alluris staggered. The ranger's powder moved like a thought through his veins. The knave tilted. The warlock's motions doubled again. Both were true. Banshees stepped out of the pillars, as if they had been waiting all along to let them free. No cry. The pariah gene ate that for him. There came as shapes, and edges, and speed that traded human reaction time like a superstition. He backed towards a pillar. He backed towards a pillar, and made it a friend. The witchblade described a pale curve. A banshee's helm separated from its neck. The body tried to keep up, but failed politely. Another slid under his guard and wrote a neat line along his thigh that announced future difficulties with walking. He put the muzzle against a phantom's midsection and pulled the trigger. Only for there to be no phantom there to be shot. He lost count. Of cuts. Of breaths. Of thoughts that belonged to him. The warlock's spear found the witchblade again and pressed. Not hard, but firmly. Pressure was an argument. He felt the witchblade hum change key the way a man feels a room shift when a crowd realizes something terrible at the same time.
Give me the stone,
the warlock said.
Give me her.
Kaelan swallowed. The metal dug into his palm. He hadn't meant to take it out. Yet he had. It lay in his hand like an answer he had put off giving. The Vestroyans stood in neat ranks along the nave, frost-blue mouths shaping the same word. Promised. He said, setting the medal on the pillar's base as if he were laying a sacrament down on an altar. It was never mine to begin with. The warlock paid it no heed. The banshees didn't look at it. The rangers paid it even less heed. But something in the nave, something he could not name, stopped straining for a single breath. Kaelan's knees wobbled. The toxin finished the work it had begun. The floor came up a half-inch more than he had planned for. He went to one knee because going to two felt like a concession he hadn't agreed to. The warlock poised above him, spearhead and note held without quiver.
This is not your song.
Kaelan looked up through the mask's grill. The witchblade weighed his arm down like an oath. No, he said through bleeding breaths. It's yours. Light arrived. It did not come in rays. It detonated. A shock front of pressure rolled the frost skin from the floor. Columnar thunder made the nave remember that it had once been a place where great things were meant to be heard. For a blink, a breath, the warlock who had been so perfect in poise tilted his helmet the way a man would when a storm he had not foreseen arrived in the room. And that storm wore crimson and black. They hit like silence breaking. At the nave's far mouth, a curtain of dust lifted as if to make way for them. Figures advanced with the inevitability of geometry. Every line true, every step placed. Helmets hooded by Phobos cowls, inscribed with runes that glowed like ice. Where they passed, the air bent, stealth fields shimmering and dying as they chose revelation over absence. Their weapons sang low in a register men were not meant to hear. Their thoughts braided, vox quiet, minds louder. The first volley did not miss because the Nova Fists simply did not believe in missing. The psychically guided bolt rounds turning rangers into hissing glass. A banshee vaulted and met the knuckles of a power fist that was not there and then was. The meeting had an end, and it was hers. The second rank ghosted past the first. Emerald lenses cold, bolters whispering, then barking, then whispering again as if volume were a sin they could only commit when permitted. Castiel Elathan walked at their head. He did not hurry, for he did not need to. His power fist crackled with energy that was not light, but a corona of psychic frost that swirled around his armor, as if the ice preferred him. He took in the nave, the banshees, the rangers, the warlock with the spear over Kaelan's heart, the man on one knee who had never learned how to fall. His voice was a measured thing, the kind of voice that had spoken orders in a labyrinth until a demon finally agreed to die.
You managed to find the worst rooms.
Kaelan's laugh was a cough with ideas well above its station. Tried to save you the trip.
You failed,
Castiel said. Almost kindly, the warlock drew breath, as if to speak his sorrow once again. Castiel gave him no time to pronounce it. They met mid-nave. Kaelan saw very little of the confrontation. Such things can only be seen by mortal eyes once they are over. He saw the warlock become speed, and the Astartes chapter master become decision. He saw fist meet spear, and saw not the weapons, but the beings carrying them. One a tower built around a spine of grief, the other a machine made to run in heedless discipline. The first exchange decided nothing. The second decided almost everything. The third was mercy withheld. Castiel hooked the warlock's spear with the magazine of his bolter, and drew a circle that had to be perfect, or it would be nothing. And it was perfect. The warlock tried to be elsewhere, but was not elsewhere fast enough. Castiel stepped through the space where a heartbeat should have been, and rammed his fist through the space where a heart once was. The warlock's helm bowed a fraction, as if hearing something no one else would get to hear. He did not fall. He was set down by gravity like a courtesy. The runes on his crest flickered as if deciding to be light again at a later date. What rangers remained chose the long probability, and took it. They faded along lines only they could see. The banshees moved to retrieve bodies that would not be retrieved. The knave exhaled, and Frost took interest in stone again. Castiel turned and took the space between two heartbeats to be at Kaelan's side.
You're bleeding.
Evidently. Kaelan found the word had more humour in it than he had intended. It frightened him less than he thought it would. Seems I collect wounds like hobbies. Castiel's helm tilted, lenses taking him in. One of the honor guard moved past. A block of plate, and poise, and force. Quiet. Weapon angled in that peculiar Nova Fist's way that said every room was a puzzle you solved by being an answer. Another passed him a small vial without comment. Kaelan cracked its seal, let the counter-agent bite his tongue, and felt the metallic toxin in his blood begin very slowly to apologize. Castiel looked down. The metal lay on the pillar's base, catching the lamp in a way that made it appear brand new. But he did not reach for it.
You dropped something,
he said. It isn't mine, Kaelan had replied.
Good.
Castiel nodded once.
Then you can leave it.
A pause. You came, Kaelan said. It was almost a question. He despised how much of one it was. Castiel's now blacked lenses were cold stars.
You ask like a man who has not called us a dozen times, and been answered a dozen more.
Gathers, Kaelan said. Castiel did not tilt away from the word.
A world we failed by saving correctly.
Kaelan closed his eyes, the toxin loosening its fingers. The ghosts bent their heads and went to sleep like men at the end of a long watch. Above them all, in some impossible distance, a child's scream unhooked from his bones at last, and went looking for a place to be that was not by his side. When he opened his eyes, Castiel was still there, because this was all real. None of it imagined.
You think loyalty is a chain?
Castiel said, before continuing.
Sometimes it is a hand.
I've had mixed experiences with hands, Kaelan said, and the line sounded like a better man had written it for him to borrow. Castiel did not smile, for the Son of Dawn rarely did. Would be foolish to expect a smile from a statue.
Stand, Inquisitor.
And so Kaelan did. The leg the Banshee had authored a future for complained, but made no formal protest. The witchblade settled against his spine as if satisfied for now. The mask rasped softly, that faint alien chord thrumming. He looked down to where the warlock's corpse lay. The spear's gone quiet. The once singing spear now silent. He bowed his head slightly. Not in apology, not prayer, but recognition of something that had fought hard and lost with dignity. Take the bodies, he said. Castiel inclined his helm a fraction. Orders flowed from him without words. The Nova fists moved like a thought expressed by a choir. The room rearranged itself to accommodate their decision. Kaelan turned once more to the pillar, where the medal laid. bright and wrong. He dare not touch it. The silence beside it had changed. It was no longer waiting. It was listening to something else. "Do you think," he asked, not looking at the Astartes chapter master, "that place will stop speaking now?"
No.
Castiel's answer was immediate. Honest.
But it will speak less loudly to you.
"That's enough for me," Kaelan said, tears beginning to form in his eyes. But he dared not let them fall. They left the nave together. One man and the angels of the Emperor. The frost re-knit behind their steps. The pillars watched them go with the same expression pillars have always worn. At the threshold, Kaelan looked back once and saw only a length of darkness and quiet and the suggestion of a shape that might have been a woman once, might have been light, might have been a trick of the eyes. But he did not wait to decide. Above ground, Golgotha's sky wore a colour that could not make up its mind. The wind remembered it had a job and went about doing it without enthusiasm. Thunderhawk gunships sat where they had been told to sit and grumbled to themselves. Castiel paused at the ramp.
You still owe me a world,
He had said with a dry humour, nearly affectionate. A tone that a man could get used to hearing from an Astartes. Kaelan made a sound that might have been a laugh under better circumstances. "I'll start a tab." Castiel ascended, his boots knocking a rhythm that sounded like someone else's heartbeat. Kaelan followed. At the top of the ramp, he looked back across the grave world and the vault that had tried to be his tomb, and found, to his surprise, that the word loyalty did not taste like iron anymore. He touched the witchblade's hilt once, two-fingered. "Echoes," he said to the wind. But this time, the wind said nothing back.